to friends. Are you happy to be here tonight? Yes, I'm also excited to have you here tonight, my little friends. After Esther became the royal queen, the king promoted one of his officials called Haman, who became the most powerful official in the empire. His position was next to the king, making him more prominent than others. All the king's officials would bow down before Haman to show him respect whenever he passed by. But Mordecai refused to bow down or kneel before him whenever he passed by because his Jewish faith forbade him from worshiping anyone but God. When Haman realized that Mordecai had refused to bow before him, he became very angry. And because he knew Mordecai was a Jew, he began to look for a way to destroy not just Mordecai, but all the Jews living in Susa. One day, Haman informed the king about some people called Jews who had been disobeying the king's command. He convinced the king to allow him to kill all the Jews in the kingdom in a single day. Wow! And Haman chose the 13th day of the 12th month, called Adar, for his evil plan. When Mordecai learned of Haman's plan to destroy all the Jews in the kingdom, he became very sorrowful and refused to be comforted. The news reached the queen, who asked Mordecai what the problem was. Mordecai told her all that Haman was planning against the Jew, and he encouraged her to go before the king and plead on behalf of her people. Maybe you became the queen for such a time as this, Mordecai said. Esther was very afraid at first, but she knew that if she did nothing, her people would be destroyed. So with great courage, she agreed to risk her life to save her people. But she asked the Jews in Susa to fast for her for 3 days. She and her maids also joined in the fast, for what she was about to do was forbidden. On the 3rd day of the fast, Esther dressed in a royal robe and went before the king's court. When the king saw her, he extended the golden scepter in his hand towards her, and Esther walked towards the scepter and touched it. Then the king told Queen Esther to ask for whatever she wanted, and it will be given to her. So she invited the king and Haman to a dinner in her honor. And so the king and Haman came to the dinner she had prepared. At the dinner, she asked the king to grant her a special request, that the king and Haman should dine with her again the following day. Haman was so excited because the queen has invited the king and himself to a special dinner. So he shared his experience with the king and the queen, with his families and friends, and also told them to prepare a gallows because by tomorrow, Mordecai will be hanged on it. That same night, the king could not sleep, so he ordered his attendant to bring a book of records, which consists of all the events. The book was passed to the king, and it was read to him. And so it was found in the book that Mordecai had once exposed the plan of certain royal servants who plot and plan to kill the king. Then the king said, "What honor had been given to Mordecai for this?" "Nothing. Nothing has been done for him," replied the king's attendant. At about the same time, Haman came into the palace to inform the king about his plan to hang Mordecai in the gallows he had prepared. But when the king saw him, he said, "What do you think I can do to honor a man that I delight in?" Haman, thinking the king was referring to him, said, "Ha ha ha, my royal king, let the royal robe the king has worn be brought for the man, and also let him be put on the horse, the kind the king has ridden on, and let the prince lead him on horseback through the city. The prince shouting as they go that this is what happened to those who the king wishes to honor." Then the king ordered him to do so unto Mordecai, taking him through the city on horseback and shouting, "This is what happens to those who the king wishes to honor." Wow! After this event, Haman returned to his home, this time very sad. Then his wife said, "Mordecai is truly a Jew. You will never succeed in your plans against him. You'd better stop opposing him before it is too late." But Haman refused to listen to his wife. Then the king and Haman came to Esther's dinner that same evening. And after eating and drinking, the king again asked Esther, the queen, for her wish. It was then she revealed Haman's plan to the king, how he was seeking to destroy her people, the Jews. The king became very furious and went into the garden. When Haman saw this, he became so afraid of what the king's decision would be. Then he began to beg the queen for his dear life, because he could see that the king would finish him. But when the king returned from the garden, he saw Haman across the couch where Esther was. "Will you also assault my wife right in the palace before my eyes?" the king shouted. Immediately the king's attendants covered Haman's face with a sack. Then Harbona, one of king's attendants, said, "Look, there is the gallows he had built to kill Mordecai, who rescued the king." Then the king ordered Haman to be hanged on that same gallows he had prepared for Mordecai. After this event, Mordecai came before the king, because the queen had already told the king how she was related to Mordecai. The king gave Mordecai the ring he had taken back from Haman and placed him over Haman's household. On the 13th day of Hadar, the day Haman had chosen for the Jews' destruction, the Jews instead became victorious, and the king issued a decree allowing the Jews to defend themselves against their enemies. And the Jews celebrated their victory with a feast known as Purim, which is still celebrated by Jews today. Purim is a joyous festival reminding them of how God delivered them from the plan of Haman. And so, Esther continued to reign as a queen, and Mordecai remained a powerful official in Susa. You can see how God can arise and fight for his own people. Esther, not depending on her influence, not depending on her position, but she looked up to God. She fasted for 3 days, praying for her people. And the Lord indeed turned the story around. The gallows that Haman prepared for Mordecai was used instead to hang Haman. That is what God does for his people. I believe you've learned a lot from this story. Yes. And I commit you into the hands of the Lord. The Lord bless and keep you.